Betrayal does not hurt because you lost a person. It hurts because you lost the version of reality you believed was safe. And that is a different kind of pain. It is never the strangers who break you. It is the person you trusted enough to stop protecting yourself around, the one you loved, the friend you defended, the husband, the wife, the business partner. The person who looked you in the eyes and promised they would never hurt you, right before they did. Maybe that is exactly why this pain feels impossible to explain. You are not just dealing with heartbreak. You are trying to understand how someone who once felt safe became the source of your anxiety, your exhaustion, your sleepless nights. Stay with me here, because most people never realize what betrayal actually does to them. It does not just wound your heart. It changes the way you see reality. And if you do not catch it early, that damage can follow you for years. So today we are going to talk about why betrayal cuts so deep, emotionally, spiritually, even physically. More than that, we are going to talk about how God heals the part of you that now struggles to trust, to sleep, to believe, to feel safe again. This is not about revenge. This is about restoration. Why the people closest to you can hurt you the most here is something science actually confirmed. Back in 2003, researchers at UCLA put people inside a brain scanner and made them feel rejected. What they found was stunning. Social rejection lit up the same part of the brain that processes physical pain. So no, you are not being dramatic. When betrayal feels like a punch to the chest, that is because your nervous system is treating it like a real wound. Your body is grieving too. And there is a reason a stranger cannot do this to you. A stranger can insult you, and it stings for a minute. But when someone close betrays you, it shakes your entire sense of what was real. You are not only grieving what they did, you are grieving who you thought they were. David understood this thousands of years ago. Listen to the ache in his words. If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship. Psalm 55 verses 12 to 14. Read that again. David is basically saying, I could have handled it from an enemy, but this came from someone I trusted. That is the wound. Think about the person who defended a friend for years, stood up for them in rooms they were not even in, then found out that same friend was tearing them apart behind closed doors. Or the person who gave their spouse everything, their fears, their wounds, their passwords, their history, only for those same secrets to be turned into weapons later. Betrayal hurts so deeply because the person did not just break your heart. They broke the place in your mind where safety used to live. Why you keep replaying everything at 3 a.m. After betrayal, your mind does something strange. It goes back through the past, hunting for clues. You are not only grieving the future you lost, you are now questioning the past you actually lived. Were the good memories real? Were they lying when they said they loved me? Did they mean anything they promised? Was I blind? Was I foolish? That is not weakness. That is your mind trying to rebuild a timeline that just got shattered. There is even a name for what happens to your body afterwards. Some researchers call it post-betrayal syndrome. The symptoms look almost identical to trauma: insomnia, brain fog, exhaustion, anxiety, constant alertness, sometimes even stomach problems and emotional numbness. And there is a reason it always seems worse at 3 a.m. Your stress hormones naturally rise in the early morning hours. So when your body is already in pain, that cortisol spike collides with the intrusive thoughts. That is why you wake up replaying conversations, while the person who hurt you seems to be sleeping just fine. But here is what I need you to hear. God does not roll his eyes at this pain. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34 verse 18. He does not stand far away from your suffering. He comes close to it. Picture the high-functioning person carrying all of this. They still go to work. They still smile at church. They still answer the texts. They still take care of their kids. They still pay the bills. But inside, they are exhausted. Their mind never stops scanning. Tone, delays, compliments, promises. Always checking, am I about to get fooled again? You are not crazy for questioning everything, but you cannot live forever inside the investigation. At some point, healing begins when you stop demanding that every broken piece makes sense before you let yourself move forward, because closure is not always an explanation from them. Sometimes closure is God giving you peace without the full story. When betrayal is actually divine relocation, now, here's where everything turns. What if the betrayal that felt like destruction was actually God relocating you? Look at Joseph. His story hits completely different once you have lived through betrayal yourself. Joseph was not betrayed by strangers. His own brothers sold him. The people who ate at the same table with him, grew up with him, laughed with him. In Genesis 37, they threw him into a pit and sold him like he meant nothing. Can you imagine that moment? Realizing the people closest to you secretly resented you the whole time? Some of you know that feeling far too well. You supported people who were quietly competing with you. You stayed loyal to people secretly rooting for your downfall. You kept watering relationships that were already dead. But the pit was never Joseph's ending. It was the doorway. The pit moved him toward Egypt. Egypt moved him toward purpose. Years later, the same man they tried to erase stood in a position they could never reach. And when he finally faced his brothers, he said this: "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50, verse 20. The betrayal looked like destruction, but it was relocation. Maybe that is exactly what is happening in your life right now. Maybe that breakup was relocation. Maybe losing that friendship was relocation. Maybe getting pushed out of that room was the very thing that saved your future. Because not everybody can go where God is taking you. Some people only fit the old version of you. When that version starts dying, they leave. Now let me be clear about something. What they did was still wrong. Joseph's brothers were wrong. Judas was wrong. Betrayal does not become acceptable just because God can redeem it. But redemption means evil does not get the final word. The pit was not Joseph's ending. It was the doorway. And what looks like rejection right now may simply be God redirecting your entire life. Do not let the pain turn you into a stranger. Here is the biggest danger after betrayal. It is not what they did to you. It is what the pain tries to turn you into. The real battle starts after the betrayal ends. That is when the voice creeps in. Never trust anyone again. Keep your distance. Love less. Feel less. Expect betrayal before it happens. At first, that voice sounds like wisdom. But listen to it long enough, and it becomes a prison. You stop living fully. You stop opening up. You stop believing good people even exist. Now watch how Jesus handled the exact same thing. In the garden, Judas walks up to betray him, kisses him to mark him for the soldiers, and listen to what Jesus says. And he came up to Jesus at once and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and he kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you came to do." Matthew 26, verses 49 to 50. Catch that word, friend. Jesus knew exactly what Judas was doing. He knew the lies, knew the kiss was coming, knew the suffering attached to it. And he still did not let Judas's sin steal his own character. He did not become cruel because someone was false. He stayed steady. That is not weakness. That is strength. Now hear me. This is not telling you to keep unsafe people close. Jesus was not naive. He was surrendered, discerning, strong. The lesson is not ignore the betrayal. The lesson is, do not let it turn you into someone God never called you to be. Think about the person who once loved deeply, gave generously, believed the best in people, then betrayal happened. And now every compliment sounds fake. Every promise sounds temporary. Every relationship feels dangerous. They think numbness is healing, but numbness is not healing. Numbness is survival. Do not let pain turn you into a stranger to yourself. What happened to you was painful, but it did not reduce your value. It revealed their inability to value you correctly. You were not too loyal. You were not too loving. You were not foolish for believing in someone. You simply handed your heart to someone who did not know how to carry it. Jesus did not let Judas determine his heart posture. And with God's help, neither do you. Forgiveness that sets you free. The final battle after betrayal has a name: bitterness. And bitterness is sneaky because at first it feels powerful. It feels like armor, like protection, like control. But over time, it does the opposite. It keeps the person who hurt you emotionally present, even after they are physically gone. You replay the conversations. You replay what you should have said. You replay the betrayal until they still control your emotions long after they walked away. Paul knew this trap. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Ephesians 4 verses 31 and 32. Now let me clear up the biggest lie about forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean pretending nothing happened. It does not mean trusting them again. It does not mean handing someone the access to hurt you over and over. Forgiveness takes one person. Reconciliation takes two: repentance, truth. Change behavior, rebuilt trust. You can forgive someone completely and still never let them back in. Forgiveness simply means refusing to let someone else's sin become your entire identity. And here's the truth most broken people eventually discover. The people who left only revealed who was capable of leaving. But through all of it, God stayed. Through the panic, through the depression, through the nights nobody checked on you, through the moments you felt completely abandoned, He stayed. That is why David wrote his deepest words while hiding in caves. That is why Job kept talking to God after losing almost everything. That is why Peter still became powerful after publicly failing Jesus 3 separate times. Peter matters here because some of you secretly believe your mistakes disqualified you. Maybe you ignored the warning signs. Maybe you trusted the wrong person. Maybe you stayed far longer than you should have. Now you feel embarrassed, ashamed, angry at yourself. But failure is not the end of your story. Peter fell hard, and still Jesus restored him, because God is not searching for flawless people. He works with people willing to stand back up after life crushes them. This season is changing you, not into a colder person, into a wiser one, a stronger one, a more discerning one, a version of you that no longer needs human validation to survive. God often does His deepest work in silence, which means even now, while your heart still hurts, something is quietly being rebuilt underneath the surface. And one day, you are going to look back at the betrayal that nearly destroyed you and realize it was the moment your real transformation began.